Oh, just let me
That clock keeps ticking like a metronome, and my thoughts keep telling me to get me home, but my balls keep telling me to let me just let me
Welcome to part 1 of a 2-part review series of the Didun Design Royal Oak. In this part, the first part, the initial impressions and the design review, I plan on talking about the watch after owning it for less than 24 hours. I've had this watch for about 30 minutes. So my review will be quite raw, but I thought what I would do would be to include the design review section because technically I've owned this watch before. This is just in a different format. In the second part, the closing thoughts section, I'll talk more about the watch after owning it for a series of weeks and to let you know how the watch has been wearing and how I've been enjoying it. With all that being said, let's get into the video. As always, these watches come in excellent little storage boxes. They are solid and they are a great size, so very practical for daily use. So this watch is a little bit off the beaten track, for me especially, and I did that for a reason. This configuration of watch was not really looked upon very highly, or should I say it wasn't chosen by a lot of people who are purchasing these watches, and I thought it would be quite cool to have a look at this configuration and see, because it is almost the polar opposite of what I originally had. A black dial with a stainless steel case and bracelet. I thought it would be interesting to bring up some variety and show you what a brown sunburst style dial with a rose gold case and a brown leather strap would look like in comparison. As you can see, this is a quartz movement, and so far accuracy has been very good, but the dial is what draws your eye in. That's what I like so much about it, is the complexity of the dial, because originally I just thought it would be a copper blasted finish that would be very highly glossed in different lights, but actually in low light you can pick up an amazing hue that the dial gives off. As it is right now, it's almost flat in its finish. You can't really see much light playing off, but there's a small hint of it. If I had to go in more direct light, you would see it in greater detail, and I think it works so well with the rose gold case and the little silver screws on the bezel. So let's talk about it. Looking at the specs, we have a 40mm case diameter from the edge of the bezel to the edge of the bezel. We have a 49mm case length with a 52mm span. As you can see, these end links add a little extra span to the watch. 13mm in height, that's including the bezel and the case back, which is solid, and a screw down case back. Finishing is excellent. You can see the majority of the case is brushed, as you would expect, including the flat top of the bezel. But the side of the bezel is polished highly, and the little edges of the case are highly polished. I must say, this is the first time I've handled one of these Didun Design watches in a rose gold finish, and I can say that they really know how to do finishing well, as always. It's the reason why you buy these watches, is for the finish, but also the price. If I bring the watch in closer, you can see the directional grain of the brushing, which is excellent. It is a PVD coated case, and as you can tell, this is a rose gold finish and not a yellow gold finish. If I turn it around, we can see that the case back is secured by 8 flat head screws. It is a stainless steel case back that looks to be off the offshore model, and you can tell that by the outlines that are wrapped around each screw, and there is also an imprint of offshore at the bottom at the 6 o'clock position. But overall, the case back, what it does is it lessens the presence of the watch in its height. I've said this a couple of times, but the automatic version with a glass back makes the case a little bit thicker, makes wearability not as comfortable. As it is, this is very comfortable to wear in this configuration. Moving on to the leather strap, this is where the watch starts reflecting its price. It's not the best quality strap I've seen, for sure. It is genuine leather. I can smell that there are elements of leather to the strap, but overall it is quite cheap in its finish. It's very thin, it's quite flimsy. It has a nice crocodile grain to it, but if we look down at the clasp, you can see that it is in fact a stainless steel buckle and tang. With that out of the way, let's have a look at the dial, because the dial is the real talking point about this watch. A black dial is cool, but it's conventional. A brown dial, on the other hand, adds a little extra element of interest, and that's the main reason why I decided to go with it. If we look at it really close, you can see the tapisserie has been excellently done. We look at all the numerals, they've been well placed into the dial. All have a rose gold finish to them, and they pick up the light extremely well. And what I like is the fact that it is so legible from any angle. I would argue that it's almost more legible than a black dial variant with a silver indentation. The numerals look a lot smaller because of the gold and how it reflects on the brown dial itself. I think it looks stunning. And once again, the light doesn't do it justice, but what I can say is that as it is right now, it is very flat in profile. If I had to put it into direct light, which I might do and show you a small clip of it, you'll see that the light plays extremely well on it, giving it a tiger's eye finish. Giving a bit more of a closer inspection to the dial, you can see that the seconds hand does not hit the numerals, which is a bit of a deal breaker. But in saying that, my eye hasn't been drawn to the second hand because the dial in certain lights really takes away all the elements that you would need to see. It's interesting because when you're dealing with a black dial watch, for example, black dials being so plain, generally your eyes are pulled towards the reflective surfaces, namely the hands, the numerals. But with this being a dial that is very refractive in itself, sort of counteracts the reflectiveness of the numerals. So what you get as a result is you get a very flat looking dial that's very legible and easy to read. So my eye isn't really drawn to the second hand, but your experience may differ. Having a look at the date window, you can see it's been very well placed into the case. And we just look at all the printing around the dial. It's been done excellently. The dial has really been finished well. And what I'll do now is I will work the movement. So as we can see, it is a screw down crown, which I always appreciate. Of course, when you twist it in this position, it does nothing. There's no winding function to it at all. Pull it out to the first position and it allows you to set the date, which you turn towards you. I've just worked out. And the setting is very well. Look how good the numerals fall into place. Excellent. Pull it out to the second position and it hacks the movement and allows you to set the time. Rocket science, right? Let's put it to 4 o'clock. And I've noticed that there is some backplay on that second hand when you adjust it, but hey, it's a quartz. Easy, simple, securing it back to the case. Like I always say to anyone when it comes to screwing down crowns, you turn it away from you and then onto the threads. That way you limit the idea that you'll be stripping the screw itself. That's great. Now, why did I buy this watch? Well, because the variety of it is so different to the others that I've reviewed, I thought it would be something interesting to bring to the channel. I don't promote quartz watches. I personally don't like quartz watches, especially when there's a big seconds hand ticking on the watch. But in saying that, for the price I paid, and I'm going to give it to you now, this watch was, I would say, £25 to buy on a special. And for £25, which is pretty much the price of a parking ticket, I think it is well worth the money that you spend on it. Just the finishing alone makes it worth it. And if you were inclined, you might be more interested in buying the fully integrated bracelet model. The main reason why I did the leather strap was to just add a little bit more diversity. Let's see what this watch looks like on the wrist. Sitting on my 7-inch wrist, you can see that the watch fits very comfortably. But as I normally comment about the way the watch fits, the way the wingspan works on these watches, you can see that the leather strap does have a bit of room to move. So if you don't have a 7-inch wrist, I would say the smallest wrist you could possibly go with is a 6.5-inch sized wrist. Otherwise, you might have a bit of a problem wearing this. But overall, it is so comfortable because of the way the case is fitted. The lower case profile makes it sit very low to the wrist, and it looks superb. But a brown strap on this watch with a gold deployant would look so good, and I think it would complement the watch well. In the coming weeks, I'll bring out a closing thoughts review where I talk about how the watch has been wearing and what I think about the finish and the details, all about the quartz accuracy. But really, at the end of the day, I can say to you that this is excellent value for money. You will not find a watch for this price with such good finishing, such good attention to detail. it is just a perfect everyday watch for someone. And that's the reason why I bring it to the channel. I don't get promoted to talk about these watches. I do it because I know that they are excellent value for the money that you're spending. And honestly, I really like this finish. I like the brown exterior with the rose gold finish. It really plays nicely on the light. It adds that little bit of interest that a standard stainless steel case with a black face is missing. So thank you for joining me in this first part of my two-part review series of this watch. I hope you've taken something away from it. To all my new subscribers, welcome. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers for now.